Hey guys, I believe I'm live right now. Let me know if you guys can hear me okay. There should be a chat box. Let me see. Can you guys give me a thumbs up or let me know in the chat if you guys can hear me okay? Ooh, okay, great. Mm. Hi, Barry. Hi, Patricia. Sorry, it takes like a bit for the chat to like activate. So, okay, you guys can hear me? Okay, perfect, perfect. Whoa, okay, great. Hi. Hi, Kathy. Hi, Pat. Hi, Gladys, Sylvia. Let's see. I am a little bit, actually, it's exactly 2. So you guys are right on time. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, Isabel. I love seeing familiar names from my classes or Instagram friends. Hi, Belinda. I see Erica. You guys can feel free to share where you guys are tuning in from. I'm from California, southern part of California. I was away this summer to Asia, Japan, and Korea, but I'm back and just really loving settling back into just the regular routine of things. So today's session, for those of you who are joining, it's going to be about flourishing. As you guys know or may have seen through my emails, my once a year guided flourishing course is now open for registration. And so usually when I do the course launches, I like to do I haven't really done like a lot of these lives every time, but I did do these live sessions for the past couple of launches, and I found that it was really fun to connect with you guys as well as help with any questions that you might have for me. Sometimes with investing into a course, it may seem like a lot, right, of investment and your time. And so these little casual sessions are just meant to be informative, fun, hopefully helpful for you guys for this particular topic. Okay, so you guys are tuning in from Cyprus, Washington, Indonesia, Florida. We have someone from France. Love it. Italy, UK. I love it. Okay. So if you were part of my email, I'm going to be using a mechanical pencil. I do like the Pentel graph gear. Oops. Let me see. Oh, I thought I got disconnected. Sorry about that. Um, so I am going to be using a mechanical pencil. I personally do like the Pentel graph gear, just the feel of it, and just I've been using it for a couple years. But today actually I couldn't find it, so I'm gonna just be using a Bic mechanical pencil. These are like very cheap. I got them at Target, maybe like 10 for each of them are really really um cheap. So that's that. And then I'm going to be using the paper. This is the John Neal Books Copper Plate Graph Pad. I don't know if you guys can see it really well, but they have like little boxes here. I'm going to show it to you guys as I flip my camera. But I like using this particular graph pad because especially for flourishing, I don't like to like ink it right away because if I have the time to design and sketch out my flourishes, it is all about that process of figuring out how to implement flourishes, tweak it, revise it, work on it until you're fully satisfied. And then I'll like to go back and ink it. So that's why we're keeping it really simple, just with a pencil and paper. So I am going to flip my camera now. And I have a bunch of questions that I got through emails as well as messages. So I think I have enough for this 1 hour session. Oh, great. Kim saying that she just got the mechanical pencils from Amazon. So I like the zero 0.5 or 0.7. I personally like using a little bit more of a thinner tip. So 0.5 is kind of my go-to, but 0.7 is good too. Okay, so let me flip my camera and then feel free to use the chat box to ask me any questions that you might have for me just throughout the session. So this is a very casual, I'm hoping to wrap up by like an hour. Again, the purpose of this is to really flourish together. Maybe, you might be in a creative funk. Maybe you need something to feel inspired or motivated. But this is a paper that I'll be using. This is the John Neal books, or Paper and Ink Arts also sell this too. This is a copper plate graph pad. And so I like this because it has the slant lines. This one, copper plate, is 55 degrees slant. Some of my students were asking if they can just get any paper from Amazon. I really have to look at it. This is comparing it to the guide sheets that I personally created for my course students. This one is where I have a little bit of a buffer line between your second descender line and the second ascender line. But with this one, because all the lines are kind of like right next to each other, it's really great to use for flourishing longer pieces like composition, spacing. You can really see things as a whole. With this one, I don't really use this when I'm using it to, sketch out flourishes for longer pieces. This is great for when I'm practicing the basics as well as just like daily practice sessions. So it has like a very clearly marked line. So benefit of using this when you're learning a script is that you have all of these guidelines laid out for you. The baseline, the waistline, first and second ascender line, first and second descender line. I have even a dotted line here for half of your X height because some of our letters, the entrance stroke only goes up to half the X height. And then I have the first and second ascender, descender lines also dotted because I didn't want all the lines to look too dark. But this is a really great guide sheet that I personally use myself as well as use it for my course students. However, so that's the pro of this, is that you have such a clear, defined guidelines. With this paper, the pro is that it's really great to sketch out flourishes when designing longer pieces. The con would be is that it's very hard to see your baseline, your waistline, first and second ascender line. So that's where I like to make little marks on these papers, just like little horizontal lines to tell me, okay, this is my X height, my baseline, waistline, first ascender line, first and second descender line. And the reason why I do like to make these markings is because sometimes when you're flourishing and you have ascender letters as well as descender letters, you don't want your ascenders to be too different in proportions of the height. So sometimes I'll see my students where, the ascender letters like letter L, some of them will go all the way up here, but then some of the letters, because you can't really see the lines here with this guide sheet, with this graph pad, it won't be even in terms of even the capital letters, or you wouldn't know, it's harder to see where to start and where to end. And so for me, this little like horizontal lines just kind of helps me to know where to start, where to end, and kind of gauge my proportions of the letter. So I'm just looking at your I'll get your comments. Okay, great. Yeah. Belinda's asking, just sharing this, that she's going to join in again. So if you have registered for my course in the past, I just got an email this morning. You are more than welcome to join us again for this new round. Sometimes like life happens or you're not able to finish it. I allow all my students to rejoin free of charge, just as many times as you want. And so you should have gotten an email from me a couple of weeks ago just to opt into this course, but all of the lessons and the course is available to you when you log in. So if you have any issues with that, you can just shoot me an email. Patricia. This graph paper is available at John Neal Books or Paper and Ink Arts. You can use, I believe you can still use the coupon code logos to get 5% off. Okay, great. So let's get right into it. So I'm going to, so these actually come in like 8.5 by 11, or this one is 11. I think it's 11 by 16 or something like that. But it's very long. So, it's look how long it is. So I actually like to, I'm gonna rip it off and I like to fold it in half. The reason why I like to buy the bigger sheet is because it's just a little more cost efficient. So that's why I like to just buy the bigger one, and then I just kind of cut it to size or fold it in half or use whatever size I need. I don't really need such a long paper right now, so that's why I'm just folding it in half. And then we're gonna just go right into the first thing I want to go over. Someone was asking me, can you please show me some variations for capital letter E? So that's what we're gonna do first. Let me just adjust my camera. Okay. And then I have a couple of questions. And if I do have time at the end, for those of you who are joining live, you can also ask me questions. So, okay. So again, I'm using the copper plate graph pad. You can get this at John Neal Books or Paper and Ink Arts. I'm using a mechanical pencil 0. Oh, this one is actually 0.7 HB number 2, but I personally like to use 0.5. I actually don't have that with me right now, so I'm going to use 0.7. Okay, so capital letter E for both copper plate and Spencerian are kind of similar. So we're going to be using the copper plate slant for this session. So the capital letter E, we're just going to lay down the basics. Okay, so we're going to start at the second ascender line here. We're going to make a C curve just underneath that first descender line. So again, I'm using that as a guide. Come down, make a bigger embedded implied oval. And then we're going to loop around, paying attention to the spacing right here. Let me make sure I have some pens with me. Okay. And then you want to retrace the top part here. And we're going to retrace and then a little curve here at the top. Okay, so copper plate E and then Spencerian E is also very similar, except this time there is a loop. But notice like the shape is very similar. Spencerian, we do start the top with the loop. Copper plate this is the basic form. So how are we going to flourish from the basic letter form? So first, let's examine what we have. We have making sure that this is on your slant line. Here's your shade. I'm going to add in some shade with the pencil. Okay. You want to make sure that you are keeping this spacing here even. I'm actually going to erase this part because with the flourishes, it might get in the way. So let's just erase this. Okay. Okay, so there is your copper plate E. So from here, the first thing I want to go over really quickly is there are 3 different ways to enter into a capital letter. Okay, I'm going to do it right up here. First is your compound curve. Okay, so it's going to be your overturn, shade to your underturn, compound curve, entrance stroke. You have your horizontal C curve. So notice that even with the pencil, I'm able to add some shading here. Okay, so you have a horizontal C curve, and you also have another kind of like this slanted oval shape in a clockwise motion going into your letters like this. So these are 3 different ways that you can enter into your basic copper plate uppercase letters. So with the E here, that's something that I like to kind of examine. What are some entrance strokes that I can use to really elongate from this letter form for this letter? So maybe for this, we can add that compound curve. Okay, that could be one way. You can really just extend out the spacing to the left of that letter because there's nothing really around this letter right now, right? You can do that. You can even combine this first one with the third one. So let's say we're going to erase this part right here. I like to sometimes add my letters, adding in this part, and then going into my compound curve. Okay, so maybe something like this. And right now we're just looking at the entrance stroke, right? Remember before with the Spencerian, we had a little loop here. A loop is a really great element to add to your flourishes. It can change, it can kind of operate like a cusp where it changes the direction of your flourish. So by adding a loop here, you're actually extending it. And also you can go to this direction instead of finishing it off in this direction. Okay, so by adding a loop, we're able to now extend this out if we wanted to go to the right of that letter. Okay, so adding little loops or even little like a point can be a great way to extend out your letters. So we can maybe add, so this is just an example. So let's say you have a name where there's no competing ascending lines next to your letter E, then maybe you want to use a little loop here and extend that out to the right. So depending on the space that you have around your word and your letters, it really dictates to me like what kind of elements I'm going to incorporate into the flourish. Okay. But let's erase that because that does look kind of funky. Okay, so we're gonna just go back to our basics here. So that's one way that you can just kind of add that. I'm going to do an E. But another way I like to enter into the E, and again, I'm going to just do a lot of erasing today, is a horizontal C curve. Okay, so horizontal entrance C curve is a great way to enter into an E. And this time, you don't need that part, and we're just going to go right into the top part of this E. Okay, so that is a very good this is a very good entrance stroke for the capital letter. And from here, you can always add in loops and you can always add in spirals. So those are other two elements that we talk about in the class. Okay, so for example, if I want to do a spiral, I can just extend it out like this. Okay, spiral is when you have a line that is kind of repeating itself. Smaller and smaller or bigger and bigger, right? You're creating an inner spiral here. You're paying attention always to the spacing. The amount of time that you want to pay attention to your white space or your empty space should be as important as where you lay down your stroke. So I'm always looking at the spacing here between my lines as well as the shape of and the curvature of my lines. Okay, so this could be that, or I can add in an inner loop here. Maybe I want to enter into the E like that. You can still add a loop at the top. Okay, sometimes I like to do this with my letters with a very small horizontal loop here. Is a great way to add a little bit of a variation to your uppercase letters. And then you can add in a little tick mark. Okay, so tick marks are like pressure and release. That's another element that I like to kind of incorporate into letters like, let's see, if I want to bring out my exemplar here. This is like letter like H here. Okay, I like to add in a little check mark there. Some people like to leave this space open. I personally just like to close it up to kind of fill in some of that white space. Okay. So let's see. Okay, so the top part is an area we can work with for the letter E as well as this bottom portion. Let's see. Uh, Oh, I'm sorry, Kim. Yeah. I'm erasing so I can show you guys just like little tweaks that you can do. You can always, after the session is over, you can always rewatch the session and kind of pause it and go through it again. If you want to just sit back and like watch for now, and then you can always go back and reference this later on too. Okay. Is flourishing mainly for traditional scripts? No, I um, flourishing is not only for traditional scripts, but if you are a modern calligrapher, you can definitely incorporate flourishing into your letter forms, as well as you understand what rules to keep and what rules to really watch out for. So, part of the flourishing rules that you probably heard or may not have heard is you don't ever cross shade with the hairline, shade to a shade, but you want to always intersect hairline to a shade or a hairline to a hairline or a shade to a hairline. So just as long as you avoid the shade to a shade, as well as when you're intersecting any of these lines, you want to keep it at nearly right angles. And so when you're doing modern calligraphy, for me, I feel like the grace and the elegance comes from that oval shape. And so even with modern calligraphy, unless you're doing a very like edgy script, I can try to demo that later on. But okay, so let's continue. So the bottom part of this E, you already have this kind of oval here, embedded oval that stops here. But you can actually extend that lower if you have all this space underneath your baseline. So sometimes I like to, if I want to do a little bit less of a flourish, I can just end it like this, okay? And just kind of do, let's say, actually, let me just do, somebody did request like Eva, so let me just, I haven't done modern in so long, so so you can maybe play around with, bouncing your letters a little bit. I would probably do this one a little bit higher. I just personally love the traditional script look, so I don't do too much modern, but you can certainly take that copper plate and modernize it to your liking. Um, but no matter what you do for modernizing your script, there's still certain rules to follow. Like for instance, like the way that I'm entering into this V here, I'm still making sure to be parallel in terms of these strokes to follow along the same kind of balanced white negative space. You can still go below the baseline here. It's not going to be as rigid. But again, like notice these little embedded ovals. I really do feel like that oval shape is what brings like the elegance to your flourishes. Okay. Okay, so you can end it here, which I do, or if you wanted to continue to add a loop to your flourish, you can go up here and bring it up into a loop. So it intersects itself in two places. So here and here, okay? So if you're gonna stop it here, then you can actually connect it right into your V like that. Okay, so instead of having this entrance stroke for the V, you can connect. This is such a great way to connect your capital letters with your next lowercase letter. But again, you see how now that kind of changes the white space between your capital and your lowercase. So you always have to keep that in mind. Depending on how you're writing your capital letter, it can also affect the spacing. So if I were to use this particular flourish, then I would bring it a little bit tighter. Maybe something like this. Okay. All right. Maybe I can go and kind of demo it out a little bit and do some examples like next to each other. Okay. So let's do another E. Okay. So again, baseline, waistline first and second ascender. I'm going to do my basic form first. Okay, so we did the top part. Let's see. We can do sometimes with this E, let's do the loop on this side. Okay, let's say we're going to start with the loop here. Oftentimes I also like to bring this out more to the left, like really elongate it out, and then you can even bring it in. So this is kind of similar to this entrance stroke where we're kind of like flipping it, horizontal. You're kind of like turning this downwards. But I like to elongate it out like this. You're going to do that embedded oval shape here. You can end it here, or again, thinking about what we talked about with the spirals or with a loop. You can always add a loop here, or you can add a loop more towards the bottom. Okay, I'm just showing you quickly some variations. Okay. So that can be something, maybe you want to really accentuate the flourish on the top part of this letter and kind of fill up this entire space from your baseline to your second descender line. If this is the case, then definitely I don't want to move this bottom of this E flourish to the left because there's so much competition. So then I would just probably bring this down, but I wouldn't do this simple flourish at the bottom because another personal rule that I have for myself when flourishing is I don't like to use the same flourish right next to each other. So you notice that this shape here is very similar to this shape here, and it's kind of redundant and it looks like boring. And so in order to kind of bring the eye more like a different kind of flourish in every area of the letter, I'm going to add a little bit of a difference. You can, again, pulling this up, okay, would be much better than leaving it like the way I did before, okay? Let's see, I don't want to miss any of your questions. Okay. Another way is, let's say you want to do more on the bottom, but you want to keep the top pretty simple. Okay, so let's do that again. So we'll do a small loop at the top part, bottom part. And this time, another great element to incorporate for flourishes is your figure eight. So figure eight is this shape right here. This is one of the warm-up drills that we do together. It's your figure eight that has this embedded oval shape here on both sides. Okay, so it's usually before we move into our first or second module, we'll do a lot of these warm-up drills going back and forth for this figure eight. Okay, so this is our figure eight, and let's say we want to incorporate part of that figure eight into this bottom of this E. Okay, so we can come up here, and instead of coming below the baseline, I'm actually going to add in that figure eight like this. Okay, and then bring it down. Okay, so here is that figure eight part, the first left side of that figure eight, but you can maybe go up this way depending on what letters is next to it, but I still brought it down below the baseline, keeping in mind this spacing here, okay? So we went down to the left, and then we have now this embedded oval here, right here. Okay, so you always have to keep in mind that shape of the oval. That's going to help you to know how to create those flourish shapes. Okay, so now we have a really big flourish here on the bottom. And so the top part, you want to think about what can I do? Maybe it's like a little bit too empty here. So let's see. Okay, maybe we can do, I think we can still do this entrance flourish. This horizontal C entrance flourish. And this time I'm going to go up like this, okay? And then you're going to retrace down and add a loop here like this. Okay, so similar thing to the loop, except we're just connecting that entrance stroke, this C curve horizontal entrance stroke, and we're going to connect it to the top part, top loop of that E. Okay. Okay, so when we look at this particular letter, I don't like this line and this line to be super close to each other because then it creates what we call a hotspot. So as long as it has like an oval in between it, I'm okay with it. But another option could be that you might want to make the bottom part bigger so it actually intersects it with the top. Okay, so what I mean by that is if we want to lift it so it actually intersects it, sometimes that can look cleaner. So let me just see if I can do that. Demo that for you guys here. So maybe I want to do a little higher like this, but I still want to maintain that oval shape. That's why, oh, I should have gone. Sorry, there is a lot of erasing. Okay, let me just make the bottom part a little bit bigger and see how that goes. Okay, so bottom, we're gonna do a figure eight, and I'm gonna just go through this letter because I have no space. Okay, so let's say you want to make your flourish bigger. Okay, so that's can make it very higher. We lifted that shape of this oval higher. Okay, so now you can intersect it here. Do you see it? Okay, so we can keep it like this, which is the original shape. And you see how there's an oval right here that intersects it between the two strokes on the top and the bottom. Okay, so that's like great. That's exactly what I wanted. Okay, so I'm keeping that oval shape. I'm lifting it up. And then the top part, I'm going to make sure to intersect it so that I at least can see that oval. And then now that also looks very open. Okay. Is my paper straight up and down or is it tilted? It's actually angled 90 degrees to the right. Because I'm a lefty and this is kind of my own personal paper angle. And then I have to like turn this camera to make sure that it looks straight to you. Okay. But right now we're just like sketching out designs and flourishes with a pencil. So you can just find a paper angle that's comfortable for you. So the flourish doesn't have to have a shadow or a shade. If you wanted to keep all of this a hairline, it's just going to make your script look very delicate. But if you want to add a shade, it's just going to have a different look to it. So let me see if I could demo this with ink. Let's see. So I'm going to be using the walnut ink. And actually, I forgot my sock guard. It's also at home today, but I'm using a Leonard Principle nib walnut ink. Okay, so just to show you what it looks like when it's inked, I'll do it down here. Okay, so here is my, I guess I'll do it from here. This is my baseline, waistline, first, second. Okay. Just kind of need to see those markers. Okay. Just to show you the difference between the two. So if I want to keep it, this is with the shade. Here's a shade. Shade. And then I'm going to come, oh, sorry. This angle is hard for me to. Okay. So that could be one way that we just did. Basically, we inked this version. I added a shade here, but I don't actually have to. Maybe it's better not to add a shade here. Or you can even add a shade here, right here, and then make sure to lift it before you cross this section. Okay, let's try it without any shade. Okay. So this one is right by. Okay, so that would be without any shade to your flourishes. So it's just right here. I was like, oh man, the angle of this entrance flourish was like right where like the curvature was for the bottom part of this E. I think ideally I probably want to lift this entrance stroke a little bit higher. But this is a difference where if you want to just emphasize your letters, Like, so if you just want the E to really stand out, and then you don't want to bring any attention, a lot of attention to your flourishes, you don't have to add a shade to the flourishes. It's just going to look a little bit more delicate. But if you like a little bit more shade to add more weight to your flourishes, then, you can add a shade here at the bottom or right here when you go to the figure 8. And then the rest of the word name. So for this one, okay, you can go. I'm running out of space here. Okay, but you can go around to the top. There's nothing here. And then you bring that down even to the bottom. Okay. See if I can help you visualize it. So basically I'm gonna bring it around here and then kind of connect it down here. Like that. Okay. So this is like where you can see a little bit of a difference between these two. So one can be very delicate and one you can add a shade to add weight to it. You can also go back because you know how when we did this flourish, it was like it's not really a place where you can add a flourish while you're writing. But sometimes like when you after you write something, if I wanted to make like parallel shades here, you can actually add in a shade after you write and kind of like a fake shade. Not fake shade, but it's not like you're making the shade as you write, but like afterwards you can add a shade. But you don't want it too close to here actually, so I'll probably move it down a little bit further here. So it all depends on the kind of look that you want. So if you like more heavier shaded scripts, then you probably want to do more shade. If you want a more delicate look, then you can have all your flourishes have no shade. You just want to really make sure you have that embedded oval shapes in mind. So I have 1, 2, I have this big one, 3. I even have these ovals here. And that really kind of helps you to know how to create your flourishes and the shapes when you're doing your letters. Okay. Let's do the next question. So somebody was asking, I have a trouble with she's from Croatia. So she was saying that she had a hard time with connecting a lowercase letter R to a V or a V to an R. So first, let's just kind of review that. And then she did give me a name, but then like I don't actually know how to pronounce it. So I didn't want to butcher it. But okay. So R to a V, this is a basic R. You go up, add a shade. Okay. To the right, add another shade. R like this to V. So you can connect it to a V directly like this, like with an underturn curve, or you can go R and then do your compound curve entrance for your V like this. Okay. Another R that is a variation for R would be your overturn R. So this is your overturn R. And then from here, your exit stroke is going to be half of your X height. So either go up, same thing with the underturn curve for the V, or you can go on your slant line R, and then from the middle, go around like this. Okay, RV. Those are 4 different ways to do RV. Okay, so V to an R is the same thing. You can do a compound curve V. So V, and then go right into your R. Okay, either shaded R in the top, or you can do a open loop at the top, like this. You can go straight into a underturn V and then go right into that overturn R variation. And this R variation, usually at the end of a letter, a word, is a really great place to flourish with like your end kind of like horizontal oval flourish, or if you want to go up above your waistline is also great. Okay, so the name or the word that she had requested was HRVOJE. Okay, so let's take a look at H. Okay, so traditional H. Okay, I'm also going to go make my markings again. So here's let's do it here. Baseline, waistline, first and second. Okay. So basic H would be your compound curve, entrance stroke. You can do your S curve, universal line of beauty. Add it with a comma down, dot. And then do that C with a tick mark here. Okay, so there's your copper plate H. Okay, so first, okay, actually let's write the word. Okay, H, and then go right into your R. R, V, O, and then J. So the J traditionally is a square top, but when I'm flourishing, I like to do a little bit of a pointed tip just because it looks a little more graceful. And then with an E. Okay, so I don't know if this is a name or a place, but okay, so this was the request. Okay, so HRVOJE. Okay, so the E, I'm just going to keep it like this for now. Notice that at the end, I do like to go a little bit below the baseline. Okay, the J, we'll just add a little dot here for now. Let's tackle the uppercase letter first. So as you look at the spacing around this word, you do have a lot of space on the top here because there's no ascending letters, but you do have a descending letter here. So we're going to just maximize this space down here with the flourishes for this J. But let's start with the capital letter because you always want to like flourish the capital letter because it's such a beautiful place to flourish. Okay, so I do want to change my entrance stroke. So we did talk about how you can make, even if you want to keep it just a compound curve, you can just keep the compound curve, but just make it a lot bigger. Even making the compound curve a little bigger already makes it look more flourished. But we did talk about how I like to add this entrance stroke, right, to the compound curve. So we'll do that one for now. Okay, so we did that slanted oval with the compound curve. I like to also add a little loop here in the top. Okay, whenever I just love tick marks and little like loops. I think they just add so much charm to the letters. The bottom part here, notice that this crossbar is really close to the bottom. So another great way is to connect things if you're able to. So I can even just do a basic connection here to the H. Or if you want to go fancy, you can also add a loop before you connect it. You can maybe do a little loop, inner loop here to connect it to the H like that. Okay, so let's leave it like that for now. And then, oh, thank you so much, Isabel. Okay, I wasn't sure how to pronounce this, but okay, great. So this is a first name. So here's a slanted oval going into your compound curve. We're adding a little loop here. We're keeping this on your slant. Okay, and then we're adding a inner loop here, keeping in mind the spacing on this part of this H. We can just go right into this and you can even make this part a little bigger on top. Okay, but another option would be, let's say we want to connect this part, but we don't have to connect this right part of this H because there is so much space here on the right side. So with the H, you can even break it up where you just connect it here for the crossbar and kind of curve it up like this. Actually, we do want to make this straight. So, Inner loop, come in like that with the tick mark, okay? And then that frees up your top part of the right side to be have the freedom to go in now the other direction, right? To the right. So sometimes I like to just opening it up here like this and not closing it into the stem, but kind of elongating that stroke and have that implied oval can really take up some of that spacing on the top. And then we can now focus on the J. Okay, so the J descending flourish, very simple. It's like the loop, you can keep the loop down, but I do have a lot of space here. So I'm actually going to bring this bottom descending stem loop. I'm going to bring it in horizontal, kind of intersect that through the loop and then pull it through all the way to the left. So that kind of takes up that space. So you can finish it like this, where I always make sure to end my flourishes with that implied oval shape in mind. Or if you want to kind of add to that flourish, okay, you can bring it up like this, or you can just kind of finish it with a bigger implied oval that's open. Okay, so it's just kind of seeing what we like. After you do something, I always take a look at it. I kind of look at it from afar and see how that looks, how if there's any repetitive kind of flourishes. So again, like right now, as soon as I did this, I know I don't like this flourish because I like this more. So because it kind of looks similar, it's like mirroring each other, I will probably do something a little different for the bottom. So it could just be like a loop here or a ribbon finish. Okay, so already that kind of separates those two flourishes without looking too repetitive. Um, so Nico's question is how to avoid the entry stroke from looking like a letter Y. Actually, it does look like a letter Y, right? But because you have these elements like a crossbar and a tick mark, and you also have this connection here, part of it's okay if part of the letter looks like the Y, looks like a Y. But as a whole, when you look at this word, this still letter is an H. Um, it's not confusing to me personally. When I'm looking at this word here, I'm not going to think that this is saying Y, right? But it's okay if like this part of the letter, just this part is a Y. This does look like a Y actually. This is exactly kind of like the basic form of a Y. I'm fine with that. And actually that's totally fine. I think in certain letters, you're gonna, let's see, like for example, if we look at the basic copper plate K here, even this top part, even if you make this entrance stroke a little bit bigger, it can look like a Y, right? This is your Y here because your Y is like you have an element of a compound curve with this S curve here. And so, but that S curve is in a lot of letters. And so you can't avoid just trying to avoid that altogether. So as long as when we're doing the flourishes, as long as we're not confusing people or making this letter like illegible, then that's not breaking any rules. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Okay, so that's kind of how I would do this particular name. And then I do have, oh, okay. Somebody, Tara was asking to flourish the word Balboa because sometimes you may run into words that have multiple ascenders next to each other. So what are some ways that we can, kind of go about that? So let's do that together. Do you guys want to see this inked out? I can ink it if you guys like to see it inked. Let's try to. All right. Okay. All right. I'll try to ink it just to show you guys. Okay. So here is the H. I'm going to just do it right here. I'm going to put in my lines again. So baseline, waistline, first, second, ascender line, just to have a gauge. Okay. So you have, and sometimes like my sketch may not look exactly like what I looks like when I'm inking it, which is why like when you're working on longer pieces and you have your sketched out version for pencil, I will use a light pad to kind of put my final paper on top and I can shine a light through it so that I can see my design and I can use it as a guide as I ink it. But when I'm freehanding like this, I don't really put that pressure on myself to make it look exact, right? I just kind of want to, I know a little bit, I just know a general idea of how I'm going to flourish this name. Okay, so I'm going to do a little scribble here. Okay, so slanted oval, going into a compound curve. Here I'm going to make a loop. Oh, see, I'm already so close to the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to go to this part of this H. R. E, tick mark. O. And J. If my flourish is like really long, it's okay to take breaks and then kind of lift your hand as long as like when you're working on this next flourish, you're going to do like a light retrace here. And then do a ribbon finish. And then we're going to do the entrance stroke for the E. Do a flick mark here. And then we're going to elongate this part of this letter. Okay. For the top part for that capital letter. So let's see what else. Maybe I'll open this in a little bit. I was thinking that actually, as I was doing this, I should have just lifted this one. So instead of trying to avoid this, I should have just gone over it like this and then put in an inner loop and then put it across. I think that would have been so much nicer than trying to like squeeze it at the bottom. I felt very like squished because I made the top part of the H so big. I think that's what threw me off. Let me try to do that part again. So let's say you make the top part of the entrance really big, just like I did. And so if you ever run into that, you can intersect it like we talked about. And then do that H like this, and then flick mark. And then you can go retrace here. I'm gonna come up. Okay, yeah, that looks so much better. So sometimes a flourish, it looks better when you're intersecting it, instead of creating this like very, very tight space right here. This is okay too, because there is a little bit of space here about like an oval shape here. But I do like this better. So can you guys see a difference between this one and this one? What do you guys like better? Okay, so that was H. So that's how I would ink it. Um, So with the pencil, everything seems like different, right? Because we put down the basic, we erased, we kind of tweaked different sections of the letter. But when you're inking it, it's kind of like you have to think through how you're going to execute your sketch with a nib and pen. There are some things that, maybe you can't do with a nib that you can do with a pencil. A pencil is definitely more forgiving. It's more just free for you to kind of experiment and play with. But with a pen and ink, because, we're thinking about the shade, we're thinking about, just the placement of the strokes. Yeah, I feel like um, yeah, that's something that you want to kind of like mentally think through, and also you'll learn as you practice it. But yeah, I totally agree, Isabel. I think this one seems a little bit more cohesive, lighter, more kind of like fluid than this one up here, right? Just like the left part looks a little too crazy. Uh, but okay, so that's your H. And then let's move on to our last demo, which is the word um, Balboa. Okay, so I wish I had more time. There was like another name that I wanted to do. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so hopefully this is helpful so far. Let me go. I'm kind of like running out because I'm at the bottom here. I'm gonna flip this paper and I'm gonna use the other side. So Balboa. So if you guys want to follow along, we're doing the word Balboa because the request was challenge was that it's really hard to flourish when you have words with multiple ascenders next to each other. So Balboa was a request. So we're gonna do that together. And then if I have a little more time, I think it's okay if I go a little over. But okay, so again, I have a pencil. I'm just gonna write out the basic letter form first, and we're gonna kind of talk through the process of flourishing this word. Okay, so here's our B. B-A Balboa. B-A-L. Oh, if I do have a lot of ascenders, I won't actually put in the ascenders yet because I kind of want to see like what I'm working with. So that's why I'm not putting in all the um stem loops. Okay, so B Balboa, O, and then A. Okay, so I have 1, 2, 3. So the challenge here is, how do I flourish this particular word here? Okay, so a couple of things. So if I have three ascenders next to each other, I do like to keep one of them in the simplified form. Okay, so let me show you what I mean by that. Okay, so which one of these am I going to keep more simplified? Usually it's either the middle one, or it could be even the end one, the last ascending stem loop letter, depending on the word itself. So right now I'm thinking I'm going to keep either the L very simple, or I can keep the B very simple because I have a lot of space over here and I just envision kind of elongating this L and bringing it over to the right. Okay, so let's go through those two options. So let's first tackle this by keeping the middle one more simple. The reason why I like to break it up, either with the middle one or one of the three, is because you don't want to try to flourish every single ascending stem loop letter. It's just too many lines and too many competing space. So let's keep this middle one, L, in the simplified form. So here's your baseline, waistline first and second. Okay, so I can go up to here. So let's go up and then bring it back down. So this is that basic letter L. Okay. And then now you have two B's to work with. Okay, so first, this B right here is, you can bring it just focusing on the right side, or you can kind of intersect it through the loop and bring it to the right as well as the left, okay? Let's see. So let's try that first. First, let's do this, the first B. I'm gonna leave a little space here because I'm gonna try to show you guys how to utilize this space, cross it through this loop, and then bring it to the left. So maybe for this one, I will just kind of do a horizontal like that. Okay, so that can be a flourish. And then the second B, I'm gonna do extend it out, do horizontal, like horizontal stem loop, bring it through this L, and then down. Okay. I feel like it's too high. Okay, let's do it again. And actually, it's because I feel like it was crossing at the L a little bit too high at the top. Okay, so again. Okay. Is that the same height? Maybe. Okay. All right, so that's one way to do a B, where you're going to extend it out, do a horizontal oval flourish here with the stem, lift it up, cross it through the basic letter form L, and bring it to the left side. And because I already filled up this space here, now with this B, I can really focus on the left side of the B for that one. And then another thing you want to realize is that there's a lot of space here at the bottom, right? Because there's no descending stem loop letters. But if you guys know basic copperplate B, there's also variations that we cover in my course. Another option for B is to come down here and do this inverted C, right? Like this. Okay. So knowing that I do have an option here to kind of have a stroke that can go below the baseline like this, I'm actually going to add it to the second B here. Okay, so let's go back to here. So I'm going to erase this so that it doesn't look the same B. You can bring it down here, and I'm just going to bring it up. And then with this B, you can actually add the flourish and bring it down below the baseline. So that is also really great to learn variations for lowercase letters so that you'll have enough options in your toolbox as you are flourishing words so that you can maximize the space that's being used around your letters. Okay, so this last part here, just gonna just extend it out to the right, okay? Okay, so that would be one option. Let's look at another option where we're going to keep the second B simple and we're going to flourish off of the L. Okay, so again, my tip for having multiple ascenders or even multiple descending letters, and that's actually something that we do cover in the class for my Fearless Flourishing class, is that tip of keeping one of the letters more in the simplified version and utilizing the space around your word to maximize the placement of your flourishes. Okay, so we'll do it down here. Baseline, waistline first and second. Okay, I'm gonna do the B. And boa. And I'm gonna keep the same bottom here of this flourish that we did. Except this time, I'm gonna keep the second one more simple. So let's just do that right now. So here's my top line here. And then I'm gonna just keep that loop in the simplified form. Okay, now with this one, with this L, you can bring it out to the right. As long as you are going to be mindful of the space here, okay, you can kind of go around that B stroke here, add a little point here for the cusp, changing direction or loop, and then bringing it out to the right, like this. And then now you have all this space here for this first B. Okay, so now we can do really maximizing either. You can just go like this, just kind of filling in that gap here. And maybe you want to just play around with this entrance flourish. This can be a place where you want to add flourishes to your word. If you're working with only like lowercase letters, you might want to just play around with the entrance flourishes for that. But this is just an example, again, of how if I am working with multiple ascending stem loop letters, I do like to give a breather or break by focusing on 2 out of the 3. So this is an example of how you can flourish it by keeping the L simple. And this is an example of maybe how you can flourish it with keeping the second B simple. But let me just double check here. So let's see, how do I feel about this? This one, I feel like the bottom one, it's very bottom heavy here. Okay, so you can bring it higher. You can maybe just do something like that. Actually, maybe the loop here on top. Okay, maybe that could be something entrance. Or if you want to keep the entrance more simplified, then you can just focus more on this flourish. So maybe this one, you want to bring it over like with the same horizontal flourish and kind of bring it down to the left side. I think this is better actually. Okay. Okay. So something like this. Okay, so either we're gonna do the flourish like this, the first only the B's, or we can flourish off the first B and the L, but also utilizing the space around your letters so that you are really just being mindful of that space. Yes, this one, it does look a little bit, is like a little bit more modernized, yes. So if you like to do a more modernized script, let's say Balboa, let me try to just do very impromptu. Okay. So if I were to do something like this, and then you can even cross it like this, I just realized. This is my very impromptu modernized script. Okay. So I noticed that I'm taking the same like principles of like what I'm looking for when I'm flourishing traditional copper plate script. And I am just implementing it to a little bit of a different style here. Okay. This one is like converging, sorry. I don't know. Let me just see where it goes. Okay. I'm just adding, no, I don't like that. This loop here looks so weird. Let's cross that out. Let me erase it. Okay. Let's just keep it simple like this. Okay. So this would be an example of a little bit more of a modernized script and actually a different option to flourish through 3 different ascenders. So like this one, I kept it B simple, just like this one, except this time I intersected it through the second B by pulling this ascending stem loop to the left and then going through it to the right. But this is copper plate. form. This is a little bit more, I condensed it a little bit. I played around with the baseline, added more variation to this O here instead of this traditional script. So notice that even when I'm flourishing, like modern script or like any pointed pen script, even Spencerian script, you can also always like apply the principles that you're learning for flourishing onto the different various scripts that you're learning. So I hope this has been helpful. It's already 3:09, so I don't want to hold you guys too long, but let me see. Is there any other questions for me? I hope you guys had fun just kind of watching along with this. Here is my other sheet that we worked on together. So if you're interested, if you're already on my email list, I can take a photo of like this, and if it's helpful, I can send it to you guys. But I realized that when I was sharing up the live session, I didn't actually get everyone's email. So if you're not on my email list yet, you can still sign up through my website. And then I'm planning on sending out kind of like a follow-up email after we end our session today. And then I'll scan this in and I'll send it to you guys with some of the things that we talked about. So I hope this has been helpful. Just as a reminder, right now my Fearless Flourishing class is open for registration. I only open this class once a year because I want to provide this kind of feedback. So with our live sessions, the 2 live sessions that are in the class, it's very similar to how these sessions are run. I usually grab like all of these. This is from my Spencerian class, so I don't have an example yet for the flourishing one from before, but I just like print out all of these homeworks that students submit in our community group, and then we just kind of go over it together. I share with them like what I'm looking for. I share some further tips about how they should be practicing, what guide sheets they should be using. With the flourishing one, it's actually really fun because everybody kind of like flourishes words differently. And so we can get ideas from one another as we're sharing in the private community group. Um, and yeah, and so this is a 7-week course. My beginner courses are 9 weeks. And so we're going to start tomorrow. And tomorrow is our first day. I'm going to be releasing module 1. And the schedule is a very guided class. So you can always ask me questions in the private group as well as through our live sessions. The nib that I'm using, Anita, is the Leonard Principle EF. It's a great nib. It wasn't something I loved in the beginning. Like an Eco G is a very firm tip. This is a more of a medium flex. So you do have to be careful not to put too much pressure as you are writing with it because the tip can be sensitive, but I've actually come to really love it. So now it's one of my go-to nibs that I like using. And the ink that I'm using is a walnut. The Tom Studio walnut drawing ink. So I keep it in this bottle, but actually there was a question. I store it in these plastic vials. It's called a dinky dip. So it's like screw top ones, but I like using it in these containers because it's perfect for dipping and to kind of like replenishing this ink. So I sell ink wells in my shop as well as the ink if you're interested. Yeah. Lefties, we use an oblique pen. I know there's a lot of misunderstandings about that. This is a right oblique pen holder. I think the left oblique came out a little more recently, but back in the day, they only had 2 options for us, either a right oblique or a straight holder. And the right oblique just makes sense for me because it keeps the pen, just above the baseline, and then I angle my paper 90 degrees and I can see what I'm writing. And so I always use my the right oblique pen for all my pointed pen scripts. When will we know when the live sessions are? So I have a schedule that I don't know if it's posted in the course page, but there's a 7-week guided recommended schedule that we kind of follow through together. And so it's not, more details are sent out during that week. So usually it's like either 11 or 4 p.m. for the live sessions, depending on the availability of my schedule. But because our class is very international and people cannot join the live sessions live, they're able to submit their homework, any questions, even requests for demo, just like you guys did today, so that I can prepare everything in advance and then be able to kind of incorporate it into the live session. So you have kind of a lot of opportunity to participate, even though you don't join the sessions live. And then afterwards, I usually send out a replay link so that you can watch it at your own convenient time. So the Leonard Principle EF, I would say is a little bit more controlled than a Hunt 101. A Hunt 101, I would say, is more flexible than a Leonard Principle. So for me personally, it took me a little bit more time to control and, and be comfortable using the Hunt 101. But that's also a great nib. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's really a personal preference. So if you're able to try out different nibs, that would really be the best way for you to understand your personal hand as well as understand the flexibility of the nib, because everyone's hand is a little different. Some people have a little bit more heavier hands than others. So oh, yay. I'm just reading your comments. Patricia was saying very motivated to get started. Yes, we are getting ready to start. And I'm also really looking forward to it. I love kind of learning alongside you guys and helping you through the course. Okay, so I'm going to end this session. Thank you so much for joining me again. It's been so fun. These casual sessions is just to share a little bit more for those who may be familiar or new to flourishing. I hope that it's kind of piqued your interest. And if you're interested in joining my course, my registration closes today, and then we're going to start together tomorrow. Okay, thank you guys.